The movie begins with Tim Lake describing himself and his family. The family has spent many joyful occasions together on the beach and at home in Cornwall, England, as Tim recalls. Tim's parents host a New Year's Eve party, which Tim is okay with attending. His sister Kit Kat hooks up with a guy named Jimmy Kincaid, while a pretty young blonde woman shows interest in Tim. When everybody counts down to midnight, the woman leans in to kiss Tim, but he shakes her hand and wishes her a happy new year. The woman is visibly disappointed while everybody else is kissing their significant other. Tim meets with his father the following day in the family's den. James informs him of a big family secret that his own father shared with him when he turned 21. Apparently, the men in the family can travel through time. Tim is dumbfounded and doubts what his father told him, but he asks how this task is accomplished. James tells him to go into a dark place, close his eyes, clench his fists tight, and think of the exact moment he wants to go, and he will find himself there. Of course, he adds, there are limits to his time traveling, as he can only go to moments in his own life, as he cannot kill Hitler or shag Helen of Troy. Tim goes into the wardrobe in his bedroom to make this attempt. He does what James told him, and he suddenly hears the Killer's song Mr. Brightside playing loudly, and he is stunned to see he is wearing the same outfit he wore at the New Year's Eve party. He avoids bumping into the table, and when the countdown to midnight happens, he grabs the blonde woman and kisses her, much to her satisfaction. Tim returns to the present to express his astonishment to his father. He asks Tim what he plans to use this ability for, and he answers that he'd like to use it to get a girlfriend. Summertime rolls around, Kit Kat's friend Charlotte arrives to stay with the family, and Tim is instantly smitten with her. While she and Kit Kat sunbathe, Charlotte asks Tim to rub sunscreen on her back. He jumps with excitement at the request, and as he tries to squeeze the tube, he squirts a big load of sunscreen on Charlotte's back. Tim awkwardly runs away into the house and the closet to return to this moment. He acts more laid back and suave, then gently applies sunscreen to Charlotte's back. On the eve of Charlotte's last day with the family, Tim goes into her room to ask her a question. Before he says anything, she says he had better not ask any question about love, as Kit Kat said he may have, but that's precisely what he was going to ask. Although Charlotte finds him sweet, she tells him he shouldn't have waited till her last night to make a move and that he should have tried earlier. This leads him to walk into the closet next to her room and return a month midway through her stay, to make a move. Charlotte is more interested but then says they should wait until her last night to see how she feels. Tim eventually realizes that no matter how much he travels back in time, he cannot make Charlotte fall in love with him, so she leaves him with a broken heart. After the summer ends, Tim moves to London to pursue his career as a lawyer. He moves in with a family friend named Harry Chapman, a grouchy playwright. He then starts to work at a law firm and makes friends with a young man named Rory, who spends much time close to Tim as he continues his search for a girlfriend. One evening, Jay takes Tim to a restaurant where they are paired with blind dates in a dark room. Tim spends the night talking to an American accented girl named Mary while Jay is with her friend Joanna. Tim and Mary hit it off, while Joanna hardly shows interest in Jay. The guys meet the girls outside. Tim is enchanted by Mary's beauty, even though she doesn't see herself as particularly attractive. Tim says he admires her dress and her fringe hairstyle. Before she and Joanna leave, Tim manages to get Mary's phone number. Tim returns home to find Harry bitter over a failed performance at his play where one of his actors forgot his lines on stage. This inspires Tim to start the night over to join Harry at the play to change his mood. Tim goes to the dressing room of one of the main actors to encourage him to give his script another look over. The actor rudely tells Tim off but then does read through his script. Tim and Harry watch the play, and the actor delivers his line spot on, to which the audience applauds. Unfortunately, as it turns out, another actor completely freezes on stage. Tim leaves to return in time and backstage to hold up cue cards for the actor to look at, allowing him to recite his lines perfectly and receive applause. After the show, Tim calls Mary, only to see her number isn't listed on his phone. He rushes to the restaurant where they meet. He is told by the host that Mary and Joanna have already left, and since they paid in cash, he can't give Tim any more information. Harry reads the paper the following day to find a glowing review for his play. However, an ad featuring Kate Moss catches Tim's eye since he and Mary chatted about her when they first met. This leads him to a museum featuring an exhibit with Kate Moss pictures, hoping to find Mary there. He goes daily and waits until Kit Kat comes by to help him. Finally, Mary strolls by, and Tim seizes the opportunity to talk to her. He tells her it's good to see her, but she tells him they've never met. He says he knows her name is Mary, but it only makes her uncomfortable. He leaves somewhat embarrassed, but Kit Kat convinces him to return just as Joanna arrives. Tim convinces Mary to let him tag along as long as he assures her he's not a lunatic or an odd fringe fetishist. He joins them for lunch and learns that Mary has a boyfriend. Said boyfriend, Rupert, arrives to join the girls. Tim starts asking pressing questions about how they met, and where, which happens to be at a party Joanna threw the previous week at her flat. She even gives Tim the specific address to the place, which is enough information for Tim to run into the men's room to time travel again. Tim runs to Joanna's party in time to find Mary sitting by herself near the window. He starts to chat her up, first coming off as awkward. Still, he then convinces her to leave the party to have dinner together, thus allowing Mary to never meet Rupert. On their date, Tim learns that Mary works for a book publisher, and they have another chat about Kate Moss. After dinner, Tim walks Mary home, and they kiss for the first time. She invites him inside for sex, which doesn't go smoothly the first time. Tim goes back in time to try again, which turns out better. Still, he tries again, being more assertive and leaving himself and Mary very satisfied. Tim and Mary officially start dating, going through many months together through the train station as a musical group plays a romantic song through their montage of love. One day, Mary's parents come to visit from America, though she springs it on Tim at the last minute just as they're coming up to their apartment. She warns him that her parents are very conservative and do not mention their intimacy. They arrive at the door, and Tim foolishly blurts out that they do not have oral sex. Naturally, he goes into a nearby closet and back in time to undo this, and he has a meal with Mary and her parents, leading Mary to say that she loves Tim. One evening, Tim and Rory go to watch a play, and Tim notices Charlotte there with her friend Tina. After the play, Tim says hi to Charlotte, and she introduces Tina as her girlfriend. This gives Tim the wrong idea that she rejected him because he believes she was a lesbian, though she says that's not the kind of girlfriend she meant. He goes back to undo this, though he still makes a blundered remark about misusing girlfriend to make someone think she's gay. When it turns out that Tina really is gay, she is not Charlotte's lover. Tim returns a third time to correct this but needs to approach Charlotte. However, Charlotte happens to spot him as he is leaving with Rory. She chats him up and then goes to have dinner with Tina, only to return moments later to invite Tim to join her while she ditches Tina. The two have dinner and then go back to her place. Charlotte begins to invite him in, but Tim sees where this is going, and he tells her there is something he needs to do. Tim runs back to his apartment to find Mary sleeping. He wakes her up to propose, though she is too tired and half asleep to respond. He time travels to hire a jazz band to play music and approach her more gently to ask her to marry him. She says yes and thanks him for not making a grand public proposal. Tim and Mary visit Tim's family to give them the news. He finds Kit Kat, who tells him she's been released from another job. She runs into the living room to repeatedly tackle Mary and kiss her cheek. Over dinner, Tim announces to the family that he and Mary will get married, and they plan on doing it soon as they have a baby. The day of the wedding arrives. Even though it starts raining, everything turns out enjoyable for the couple. During the reception, where Rory is the best man, he gives an awkward speech, leading Tim to time travel and pick Harry as his best man. Harry rudely comments toward Tim, making him return to pick up Jay. This is just as bad since Jay starts making crude sexual references, forcing Tim to be just like his dad as the final best man. Not long after, Mary gives birth to her and Tim's first child, a girl they name Posey. They eventually move into a house, even though Tim states they can hardly afford it. However, he and Mary are happy nonetheless. 1 year later, on Posey's first birthday, Tim's family arrives, but they still expect Kit Kat. There is a knock at the door, but it turns out to be Jimmy Kincaid. Tim asks about Kit Kat, and Jimmy says he got into a fight with her, and she had been drinking earlier. Tim and Mary rush to the hospital to find out that Kit Kat is in a car accident due to her driving drunk. Tim time travels to bring Kit Kat to his house before she drives anywhere. He takes her for a walk on the beach to confront her over her problems with Jimmy. He then admits his secret to her and brings Kit Kat into a closet to time travel back to the New Year's Eve party where she first met Jimmy. She is just as surprised to find herself in her old clothes as Tim was at the beginning. Tim holds Kit Kat from walking to Jimmy, and they see him approach another girl. Kit Kat realizes what a jerk Jimmy is, and she goes over to him to punch him square in the face. Tim takes Kit Kat back to the present, and her memory has been altered, so she tells Tim she is now with Jay. Tim is pleased to see that Kit Kat is happier with Jay, and he goes back home. When he goes to play with Posey, he is shocked to see that his daughter is now a boy. Tim travels back to the day of the child's birth to meet his father. James tells his son that because the child was born in between the time traveling Tim did with Kit Kat, he altered the timeline so that he instead had a son. Tim realizes he must undo Kit Kat's new timeline, so Posey is born. Kit Kat still suffers the car accident, but Tim and Mary stay by her bedside until she vows to break up with Jimmy and maintain her job. Before he leaves, Tim tells Kit Kat that Jay has always had a crush on her and that she should talk to him. Posey is still there, and Tim plays with his daughter. He tells Mary he wants another child, though Mary doesn't want to repeat the process. Despite this, they have another baby, a boy named Jeff. One evening, Tim and Mary are having dinner with Mary's publisher. She goes through many dress changes because she is unsatisfied with how she looks, despite Tim telling her she looks lovely in anything. Mary eventually goes back to the very first dress she tried on. She asks Tim where Posey is, and he tells her he left her downstairs. Unfortunately, he left her with the publisher's manuscript, which Posey colored over in crayon and put through the paper shredder. Mary is furious, and as Tim tries to walk out so he can undo this via time travel, Mary does not let him leave. The phone rings, and she answers angrily, then apologizes when she finds out it's Tim's mother. She passes the phone to him, and Tim's face becomes worried when he speaks to his mother. Tim and Mary return with Kit Kat to the family's home in Cornwall. Uncle Desmond tells Tim that James has lung cancer. He adds that on Tim's wedding day, when James told Desmond he loved him, it was the happiest day of his life, and now learning of this news makes this the worst day. Tim meets with his dad and learns that he has mere weeks left. He admits that he's been time traveling a lot to give himself more time to spend with his family and read many books. He then tells Tim he has another secret to say to him. Tim narrates that his father gave him a two-part plan to enjoy his life. The first part is to go through a day usually as it plays out. We see Tim going to work, watching Rory get chastised by their boss, going to get lunch, and going to a courtroom case with Rory that turns out to be successful, living the day with the stresses he ought to face. The second part is to go back in time and relive the day again while embracing it for what it is. He relives that day with a more upbeat feel, even allowing Rory to enjoy the day. The day comes for James's funeral. While everybody is getting ready, Tim time travels to a moment with his father, letting him know that he is arriving from the funeral. He sits down with James to watch him read a passage from a Charles Dickens novel. Sometime after the funeral, Mary tells Tim that she wants a third child, this one being the insurance baby. As she explains, if one of their children is innovative and the other doesn't, there can be two happy dummies instead of one miserable one. Tim is on board with the idea, though he realizes that this means he would have to permanently let his father go. Over the following 9 months, as Mary is pregnant with their third child, Tim time travels to visit his father daily. As Mary is nearly ready to deliver in the 9th month, Tim visits his father one last time. They play table tennis, and James asks what his reward should be. Tim says he will kiss him, and from the look on his face, James can determine what this means. Tim goes over to kiss his father, and then the two go into a dark place to time travel together to a day when Tim was a child. He and his father spend the day together at the beach. Tim and Mary's third child is born, a girl named Jo. Kit Kat and Jay have also gotten married and had a child. By this time, Tim has decided that he may now live his life without time travel, as it is perfect the way it is. He kisses Mary as she lays in bed while he goes to take his children, now slightly older, off to school. The film ends with a brief montage, with most other characters enjoying their lives one day at a time.